One. And Jenny, you're going to go ahead and spotlight the video too. Sorry. Thank you. Okay. Thanks, Jenny. Well, hello, everybody. Welcome. Welcome to the last RBCM at Outside for 2020. In fact, the last program for the museum of the year, which is very strange because we're usually doing lots of holiday programming on site at the museum. And of course, we can't right now because of the pandemic. So thank you very much for joining us. If you're in the Zoom room or on a Facebook, thank you so much for joining us. My name is Liz Crocker, and I'm a learning program developer at the Royal BC Museum. And in the before times, before the pandemic, I was doing these kinds of programs, digital field trips, and also I had a field tripper program where I'd meet people out in places outside around the South Island, and we would have outdoor field trips. So this, I feel like the RBCM at Outside is kind of a merger of those two kind of programs. So thank you for joining me today. Now, I'd also like to acknowledge that I'm at Christmas Hill, which we're going to explore today, and it is in the territories of the Songhees and Esquimalt First Nations, the Lekwungen speaking people. And we're also in Saanich, so we're a little bit on the Wasanich speaking territory as well. So very grateful to be here, and such a beautiful, beautiful day. I'm so glad it didn't rain or snow today, because I don't know how I'd keep the camera dry. Yes, so I also want to say that the next program in January for this program is January 13th, Wednesday, and I'm going to be with Grant Keddy, who's our curator of archaeology, and we're going to be at Finlayson Point, which is off Dallas Road if you live in Victoria. We're going to be looking at, there's an ancient defense site, Indigenous defensive site there, thousands of years old, we're going to be looking at. So that's going to be very interesting. Join us. I hope you can join us. So just a little bit about the format. If you haven't been to one of these programs, it's a webinar format, so I can't see you, but you can hopefully see and hear me fine. And but there's a chat. So Jenny's going to be, my colleague Jenny from Learning is in the room as well, and she's going to be monitoring the chat, so you can ask questions. And as we go along, Jay would love questions as we go along. Yeah, comments as well are great. We'd love to hear from you, so we know we're not alone out here. And afterwards, if you want to share this, we do post it to YouTube. We record it and post it later, so you can, if you have to miss some of it or you want to share it with somebody, please do. All right, let me just check my notes here. Okay, right. I think that was most of it. So really what I wanted to say before I introduce Jay is that I picked this location too because, well, for one, we've all had a stressful year. And holidays can be often a very stressful time. And just a reminder, and just because I find it so helpful, and there's lots of research that shows it's true too, get outside if you're feeling stressed. And even if you're in a city and you don't have a accessible wild space that you can get to, a natural place, even just opening your window or going out on a deck and trying to get some fresh air, trying to get a different perspective can really help. I, for one, am very glad to be away from all the hustle and bustle of the holidays right now. And because even though there's a pandemic, it's strange, there is still a hustle and bustle. I don't know how that's possible, even though we're confined mostly to our homes. But here we are. We are at beautiful Christmas Hill, and I am not at the bottom of it. I'm about halfway up. Oh, here comes the sun in my face. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to turn it over. I'm going to walk with Jay Rastogi, who is the site manager of Swan Lake Christmas Hill. And Jenny's gonna be putting some links in there as well. So there's some information about Swan Lake Christmas Hill that you can look at later. But I'm gonna walk up towards him and we're gonna hopefully keep connected to you. And then he's going to give us, well, first of all, he's gonna tell us how did this place get named Christmas Hill. So I'm gonna turn my camera around so that I can look at the ground. There's still a little snow. We had a bit of a snow event, a rare snow event on Monday, and there's still a bit left here at Christmas Hill. We're gonna go up and see if we can find Jay, and I shouldn't say if. He gosh darn better be where he said he'd be. He is further up. And I'm going to try not to trip with the camera. Oh, this Mother Nature really has given us an incredible day. I'm gonna go through the mud puddle. Bear with me. I think I see him. Hang on, let me get it. So here is Mr. Jay Rastogi, site manager. And now he's gonna take his mask off and I'm gonna put mine on because I'm going to be on the camera for the rest of the time. So Jay, welcome. You are the site manager for Swan Lake Christmas Hill.
Yes.
What are you doing here?
I am just taking a few minutes to enjoy the spot. It's a favorite of mine, both from a work perspective and just a personal enjoyment perspective. So I'm just kind of looking at life on this rock and making a few little.
You're doing a little sketching.
Little sketches.
Oh,
so I was
lovely.
looking at some of the oak leaves that are starting to decompose, and then the mosses are the licorice fern here, and the mosses on the edge, and just the water dripping out of the mosses as the snow melts.
Look at some of these little lichens there.
Yeah.
Oh.
If we just go up here to the oak branch, I sketched a few of the lichens on the branches, but you can see
the
whole
Let's see if I can get that.
new world.
Lichens are so incredible.
Yeah.
Oh, they're so pretty.
So I think there's 3 that I could identify there: hammered shield lichen.
Am I allowed to look at your books? Is that okay?
Yeah, you could look at my book. They're
wow.
more for my interest and memory than anything else.
But it's such a neat way to observe nature. It really makes you look harder, doesn't it?
Yeah, and you kind of see, I guess, details that you might otherwise miss. And so, for instance, I was just looking at the buds of the Gary oak, and I look at buds in general because my uncle taught me to do that at a young age. It's one of the best ways to identify woody plants. So if you look at the terminal buds on these Gary oaks, you can see there's a little hairs on them, and so that's a feature in just the way they bundle up. And they're
there we go,
dormant now for the most part. There's a few trees that have already leafed out, and so they've been a little bit tricked that winter is over and we had our cold snap and so on, but
that's it.
They're tough, so they'll survive that just fine.
Oh, thanks for sharing that.
Yeah.
So I have my mask on now, just so everybody knows, because we're getting a little bit closer than 6 feet. Before we go on, I know you're going to lead us around sort of the history of this landscape a little bit. How did Christmas Hill get its name, Jay? Inquiring minds.
There are a few. There's 2 stories that I'm aware of. So, first one is that I think around 1840, one of the Hudson's Bay people, McKay, I believe was the person's name, he quote unquote discovered this hill on Christmas Day. So that's one potential source. And then the other is that a young girl went missing and was found 3 days later, and that 3rd day was Christmas Day at the base of Christmas Hill. So it's a story of the Indigenous population and the settlers looking for this young child that had gone missing. And so the Christmas miracle.
Right.
The other name that you will see on maps, including actually maybe the first map you could bring up, Jenny, please, this is called Lake Hill. And if we look more, so the first map is one of kind of greater Victoria area from the, I think the date is on there.
1858, it looks like.
And then if we go into the close-up, the second slide, that'll show just basically Christmas Hill, Swan Lake, and a little bit the area north of us. And you can see in that map, it's representational, but it's actually probably very close to what the landscape was like at that time. The surveys have been checked with kind of the Western newer methods, and it seems that the representation is very accurate of. So the icons there are deciduous icons would indicate Gary oaks, and then there's coniferous icons which would probably indicate Douglas fir, and then some wetlands. And the area north of us and a bit west of us is quite open on that map. And those were the main, as far as we can tell, the main camas growing areas for the Kosamson family. And so that's whose this land would be their traditional territory, and well known for camas harvesting, which was then later those fields. And they of course retained the right to those camas, but of course the landscape changed, and so the camas diminished. And there's still quite a bit on Christmas Hill. And in April, the south slopes in particular are just a mass of camas and other bulbs too, but camas in particular.
So come back around April,
April is a
see the
fantastic time
camas.
to do it.
Yeah.
For sure.
Oh,
But
incredible.
yeah, so the area northwest of us, where the deep soil Gary Oaks and the camas fields were, was turned into fruit orchards, and then later housing.
Right.
Yeah, so
Okay.
we're just going to go up the path a little bit.
You lead the way.
If we see some interesting birds, I'm probably going to disappear, but yeah, we're just going to go for a little walk, see what we see.
Yeah, and if anybody has any questions as we go along, Rebecca's saying she loves old maps. I do love those old maps too. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, we'll just peek in over this fence here. Actually, let's just go up a little ways.
Yeah. Well, we're sort of talking about gifts.
Yeah, you can see we've got a restoration area sign here and a split rail fence. And behind that is what we call the Vernal Pond. It's wet all winter. It's a little saddle. We can just go.
Can we go around?
A little bit,
I was just going to say, we're sort of talking about gifts of nature a little bit. And one of those gifts is for humans to stay on the trail, especially around places like this.
Yeah. And this spot in particular is quite sensitive. It's got quite a few rare species and very shallow soils and just a little saddle between the two little peaks here. And so water pools. And that creates a type of disturbance. A lot of the plants that can't handle having their roots wet all winter will not persist there. And so it's a great spot for annuals and some rare grasses and sedges. Nothing super vigorous or showy, but nevertheless, they're a unique part of this ecosystem. And so we take a little bit of extra care in terms of the fencing and so forth as an indication not to go off trail.
And there's a sign there. And you said you called it a vernal pond.
Vernal.
So maybe Jenny could, is it Vernal?
Vernal, which just means
there we go.
Yeah.
Oh, it just means seasonal. Okay.
Yeah, the winter, in our case, winter water, and this will dry up.
So during August, it's not here.
During August, it's dry, yeah. And so these are areas that we're especially concerned about getting invasive exotics coming into. And so, and that's one reason to stay on the trail at all times anyway, because if you go from one park to a different park, you might be bringing in seed. And we're noticing that especially with burr chervil here, as we're getting little patches of burr chervil starting up along the trails.
That's an invasive species?
That's an invasive species, and it's in some of the other CRD parks, and now it's here. And so we really put a lot of effort into trying to contain it and not have it go, but it's these little tiny burr seeds, and they get caught in rabbits, fur, and deer, and off they go. Yeah. But especially if you're so this nature sanctuary, we don't dogs and pets are not allowed here, but and even amongst the CRD parks that do allow dogs, taking your dog from one park to the next can transport seeds. Yeah. And I think the burr chervil issue is certainly spread that way. And I've noticed also people combing their dogs in parks.
Yes, I've seen that too.
Great way to spread.
And we love our dogs. I love dogs, but that's something we can do is keep our animals under control in parks and only take them where they're permitted. So they're not permitted here. No.
This is a pretty rare spot. There's very little access to it compared to a lot of the other hilltop parks. And so, it's in better ecological shape, and we'd like to keep it that way. And in fact, improve it. And so one of the big activities, volunteer activities that's been happening here for several decades is removal of exotic species, in particular Scotch broom.
I'm not seeing any.
So we've made a huge effort over the years to remove Scotch broom. And I can see just a few little, I'll just, you can see there's a small one coming up here.
Ooh,
and
good eye.
When they're about this size, I will just kind of pull them up. And you can see the root structure there. if they're big, if they start getting big, then we actually take clippers and cut them just below the soil surface so that we get the top few roots. If you cut it up here, then it's going to just shoot up again. And so it's really important to get the top few roots. And the reason we wouldn't want to dig a bigger one out is because there's likely to be seed in the soil. And Scotch broom seeds are exceptional at staying viable for years. So 50, 80 years, something like that, until conditions are right. So we've been doing Scotch broom removal all over the sanctuary for years. In fact, I brought a little, a big cross section. So this is 7 years ago, we had Scotch broom this size up here. And now we're kind of down to basically new stuff that is germinating.
So maybe hold the side of it so folks can see. That's actually like a tree cookie, like from, oh my gosh.
Yeah.
That's amazing. That is old growth.
That's a cross section.
Cross section of
of Scotch broom. Yeah.
Wow.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I can see one more big one, or slightly bigger one back here. There's a little bump here.
Yeah.
So maybe this is going to turn into a Scotch broom removal day. But yeah, so they're very good at persisting. So this is the time of year when we actually come up before much in the way of camas is emerging.
Okay.
We can see there's a little bit of camas in here. Here's the seed pod from last year's camas. Yeah, and if I go into my bag here again.
Did you have a slide of camas in case people don't know camas?
I'm not sure if I put that in. Oh, I've got my teas. I want some tea. But I brought some bulbs as well of camas. So there goes the raven.
Yes, I heard the raven before.
So yeah, camas. There's some small bulbs. You can see they're starting. Their roots are developing. Their shoots are developing. And so this is all happening underground right now for all of camas in this patch. I got these from, I'm propagating them. So they're from a flower pot that I have them in. And what's neat about camas is they're super resilient to drought and fires and things like that. And in fact, they developed in conjunction with fires, in particular human fires. I'm looking for a specific one here.
You know what you're looking for there.
I'm looking for this one.
Oh, there we go.
So this is kind of a small camas bulb. They can get 2 or 3 times this size. And then this one here, you can see is more elongated. And what they do is they start off tiny and they form this roundish bulb. And then they elongate a bit and the top part of the bulb senesces or goes kind of more longitudinal, and then it swells up at the base again. And so they dig their way deeper and deeper into the soil. And that's how they're able to survive fires. And so dairy oak ecosystems are actually human-created ecosystems. They would not exist without Indigenous fire management practices. So, we could really easily think that this plant, this bulb, is very much, it's part of the cultural tradition. It's a very important food source, very important plant for insects and so forth. But it wouldn't have the form it had without that human pressure or selection or practices of creating light. And a lot of our biodiversity in the Garry Oak ecosystem zone in particular, but probably elsewhere too, is here because of the traditional Indigenous practices. And so one of the things that I frequently think about is, we think of fire often as a disturbance or a destructive agent, but I think if it's timed right and the frequency and so forth, it can actually be a very beneficial agent for biodiversity. And so I'm also trying to think about other types of impacts, human impacts that, and natural impacts for that matter, that are disturbances but can be beneficial. So yeah, so pathways obviously are a disturbance agent. And so yeah, we want to, if it's a small path that 10 people are using a day, that's going to have a different impact than if it's a path with 100 or 1,000 people a day.
Yeah.
So yeah, what's the carrying capacity of this land?
Thanks, Jay. And I saw we had a question. Deborah, I think it was, is wondering what do Indigenous people use camas for?
It's a food plant. So that bulb is pit cooked. You can see the bulb here. And yeah, so it's harvested.
It's a starch, isn't it?
It's a starch, yeah. It's a carbohydrate, yeah. And the sugar is inulin, so different than potatoes. But yeah, it's a carbohydrate source.
Very significant here.
Very
on the
significant
South Coast, yeah.
food source, for food and also for trade. Because a lot of the other areas that didn't have it, this would be traded up and down the coast and into the interior.
Yeah, and what is that horrible statistic? I'm not laughing at that. It's just there's a horrible statistic about how much Garry ecosystem used to cover the South Island and what's here now, isn't it? It's like one of the most endangered ecosystems in Canada.
Yeah.
It's like 1% or something of what it used to be.
I'm not sure the number, but yeah.
It's low.
Yeah.
So maintaining these systems here is really significant.
Yeah, and it's quite a I've had it, camas.
Yeah.
I kind of try to eat some native wild foods just as a way to
know the place.
Yeah, know the place and feel the place, and a connection with the traditional stewards of this area. And I'm a settler here, but still I hope to learn and bring some of that sensitivities, even if it's just a little bit of that stewardship element. So when I'm harvesting wild plants, and in many cases I'm actually growing things like camas or berries and so forth, as a way to, partly for the ecosystem functions, for the pollinators and birds and so forth, but partly also as a connection to the land and the history of this place.
Thank you, Jay. Okay, we have, looks like about less than 10 minutes. So
maybe as we're walking, we'll go on to that third slide. And we'll see,
thanks, Jenny.
Yeah, I think it's, is it 1954?
She's working on it.
Map, or air photo rather.
She's working on pulling up that next slide. And getting a glimpse of the city over there. Here comes the slide. Yep, now she's got it up.
Yeah, perfect. And yeah, so just have a look there and see how much that this area has changed since that first map. And you'll see some of the open areas to the north, and you can see how sandage is developing around this spot. And then the next slide is 1960-65 upper right. See how much more it's built.
Yeah, we're seeing that slide.
That's a huge contrast.
Thank you, Jenny.
And just watch your step up here.
Yeah, try not to trip again. Oh, getting some height. Beautiful. Oh my gosh, we couldn't have asked for better weather. Yeah, I'm gonna do a little turn around here. So now we are looking south now, aren't we? So it's a little bit dark, but I can see the city of Victoria down there to the south. And behind the city are the Olympic Mountains. They're in Washington State. Turn that a little bit. And we're not even at the top yet. All right. Can't really zoom in. Oh, deer? Oh, I see it. Yes. Guys, I don't know. Are we heading over towards?
Liz, it's become a bit difficult to hear you speak when you're not facing the camera during the wind.
Jenny, yeah, it is a bit windy here, so we're gonna get out of this spot. And I've got the mask on. The masks.
And as you're going, we did have a question: is what is the elevation of Christmas Hill?
Oh, I'm not sure what it is.
I bet it's on the website.
Yeah.
Sorry. Yeah,
Question.
that is an excellent question. I wonder what it.
Google Maps can answer it. Google Earth.
There was also a question that says, the signs say stay on the trails when there are rocks areas like this. Is it okay to walk on?
There's only one spot that we kind of want people to walk on. That's right near the peak, or I don't know if we want them to walk on, but that's where it's allowed. As you can see from earlier, and even just here, you know, there are plants on the rocks, and if we get, I don't know how much time we're going to have, but I wanted to go see a little spot where just in the rocks there's a little bit of chickweed monkey flower. Maybe we'll just fast forward to that slide. I think it's maybe slide 8 or 9. There's some green leaflets of chickweed monkey flower just emerging.
And somebody, was it Elisa, found the height of land here. Did you see what it was, Jenny? How many meters?
Oh, I'll
Is the
just
ele-
open it.
Oh, sorry. Oh, there's the monkey flower. It's
Yeah.
up.
So is it the leaves you have?
Yeah.
Yeah. So, you know, areas like this, I don't know if we'll get a chance to get there time-wise. But this is where, if you get little pockets of soil or little cracks like that, it's where the monkey flower seeds can persist because they don't get out-competed. And so if we go step on them, then we're losing those populations. And we have found here, particularly things like blue-eyed Mary, that's another annual, that they would be especially disturbed by walking on the rocks, and the lichen colonies, of course, and mosses. The mosses probably can regenerate faster than some of the other stuff. And then the annuals, once the seed's gone, that's it for them. And we're basically an island now. And so seed transport is more challenging. And while we're talking about chickweed monkey flower, let's just go to the next slide and see it in bloom. And that will be in April.
There we go. Thanks, Jenny.
Yeah, there you go.
Oh, yeah. Beautiful.
Yeah.
So be careful if you're on
Yeah.
the rocks and try to stay on the trail.
Mhm.
Thanks, Jay. Well, we probably have about 5 minutes, but let's get to see. Yep, we're gonna head to the peak.
We had a couple of answers for the elevation. We had
Yeah.
97 meters, but we also had 109 meters. So in between there.
It might depend on the source, I'm sure.
Yes.
Thank you to those folks. Around 100, yeah. Thanks for looking that up for us.
We also had a comment that I've heard that there was a massacre here on Christmas Day, mid-1880s, hence the name.
Well, there is a story of a murder on Christmas Hill. I didn't realize it had anything to do with Christmas Day. And I don't know any of the details about it, or if it's even true. But,
Something to investigate.
yeah. Yeah, we're just gonna follow these folks up the hill.
We also had another comment about the Scotch broom that said, oh gosh, 50 to 80 years for that Scotch broom seed. That's crazy.
Yeah, and that's why it's so important never to let it go to seed. So yeah, we, you know, most of the time we're removing it in the dormant season when the camas and the chocolate lily and all of that is dormant. But then if we do see it in bloom, we'll cut the blossoms off so that they don't set seed. Interestingly, they make you can roast the seeds and grind them up and drink them as a kind of a hot drink.
Huh. Have you tried that?
I have tried that, yeah.
How is it?
It's like a postum crocus kind of. I don't know if you know those rinks. A little bit like roasted dandelion and chicory.
Okay.
Those dark
Okay. Ha.
mixtures.
I think we may have found the exact measurement for the elevation. Yes, on the Swan Lake Christmas Hill Natural Sanctuary Trail map. It says the summit at Christmas Hill is 109.
109. Thank you.
Yes, thank you, Kara, for that.
Thank you, Kara. Love that folks are out there looking at it. Oh, she should have it memorized. Oh, look at the lichen on this. Just incredible. Beautiful. Okay, we're almost at the summit. Folks that know the area might recognize the white dome over here. That's sort of to the west, I guess. Let's see if I can. Things, so it is over there to the west. I'm going to turn this way over. So then you see a glimpse of ocean out there, right behind us. That's south. Trying not to turn too quickly. Okay, Jay, are we almost at the top?
Yeah, we can see the coves.
Okay. Now that Pecals is higher, isn't it?
That's a bit higher.
Yeah. Pecals, also known as Mount Doug, or used to be known as Mount Doug. I think it's officially Pecals. Oh, and I can see some mountains over that way. Coastal mountains. Oh, can we see? No, I can see Baker. Can you see Mount Baker, Jenny?
Unfortunately, I can't see it too well, but I know that view very well.
Yeah, I know you're gonna have to just come in person to see it.
Yeah, it's a bright sunny day here, and yeah, nothing better than being up here.
No.
Looking out 360 degrees.
It's incredible.
Yeah, the coast mountains, Cascades, and the Olympics. The Olympics are a bit more in shadow or cloud.
Yeah.
And then out towards the highlands over there.
Trying to do my slow. Sorry, it's hard to hear me through the mask. I was losing my mask there. Got it back. Well, this is amazing. Thank you so much, Jay, for taking us on this excursion. Does anybody have any questions before we leave you? I know we actually saw quite a bit in a very short period of time. And seeing that snow on the ground is really quite something. We don't get doesn't happen very often.
A few times a year.
One question there is how do we give back to nature?
Excellent. Well, I think we're all going to have different ways of doing it. Learning for me is a big one. I think if you learn and can appreciate it, you'll steward it better in your personal actions. For me, your native plant gardening, that's a big way. Just growing plants for pollinators, for birds, and for myself, frankly, there's a number of them that are good edibles, and I think it's the way of keeping some of that knowledge alive of the management techniques as well. And yeah, supporting your local organizations that steward them, going out and volunteering, removing exotic species, and not, I think even educating garden centers and so forth not to carry exotic species. Yeah, there are a number of ways I think we can be involved and benefit our community.
Yeah, and especially thanks for mentioning you're supporting your local sites like and outdoor centers and nature centers. I mean, British Columbia is so vast and so diverse, and not all of the folks that are viewing us live here on the South Island for sure. So just to get to know your natural ecosystems that are all around you. And if you've got a park or a nature house nearby you, they often need volunteers, don't they?
For sure.
Yeah. Oh, well, this is just so beautiful up here. So I am feeling definitely less stressed than I was a half an hour ago, even though I'm holding the camera. But it's just so good to get outside. So I want to thank you, Jay, very much for joining me. I'm going to turn, you stay where you are. I'm going to do this and then flip my camera around so I can say goodbye. And I also wanted to say on behalf of the Royal BC Museum too, and the learning team, my colleagues, Kim Goff and Chris O'Connor, who have been doing these webinars since the pandemic hit, RBCM at Home and RBCM at Home Kids. And then this one for me is RBCM at Outside. I think we just so appreciate you joining us. And it's just been bizarre, strange, and hard often not to be able to see you in person. So we really appreciate when you can join us in this strange online environment, and hopefully we'll get to see you in 2021 in person. On that note, let me just try to get Jay back in the picture. Here you are, Jay, there you are. Have a very safe holiday, and remember to get outside. Try not to be too stressed. Get a breath of fresh air. If you live around here, come up to Christmas Hill, visit Swan Lake, get out for a walk if you can, safely, following the restrictions, of course. Thank you very much, everybody. Happy holidays. Bye-bye.
Thanks for joining us.